Welcome on in. I'm Tyler Byrum, and this is a media timeout. Emma Meesseman is a member of the New York Liberty, the 2019 WNBA Finals MVP and champion, a two-time Eurobasket champion, and who many regard as the best European basketball player. Some would even describe her as the best basketball player in the world. And now she is joining a championship caliber squad. To discuss the shockwaves of the Emma Meesseman sweepstakes and what this means for the New York Liberty is Jackie Powell from the Next. Jackie, welcome to the show. I'll start by asking you if you could just kind of lay out how we got here. Emma has not played in the WNBA since 2022 when she made it all the way to the WNBA semifinals for the Chicago Sky. Several reasons being her not being in the WNBA are because of her Belgian national team commitments for Eurobasket in the last two cycles and, of course, the 24 Paris Olympics. But there's also the prioritization rule that has played a little bit of a factor for her. But from your reporting, how did New York get a player like Emma Meesseman this late into the year?
Well, so first of all, Tyler, thank you so much for having me. It is a real pleasure. I think before even getting into the New York of it all, Emma had been eyeing a return to the WNBA this year. And I had spoken to her Belgian national team teammates, and Julie Allemande and Julie Van Loo, and they both told me that she really has observed the absolute women's basketball boom that has happened in the United States. She has paid close attention to how the league really has grown since she last played in it in 2022. And that was a really big part of her wanting to return. The WNBA is now starting to act like the best league in the world. A lot of the times the league would say it was the best league in the world, but it wouldn't necessarily treat its players, and there wasn't the pomp and circumstance around it that it was the best league in the world. So I think that was a huge part of it. Also, she really needed time to get her body right. I know there was an injury around that 2020, was it the 2022 World Cup? Sometime around then, she just needed a break from the constant wear and tear on going from WNBA to European club team to national team, that constant cycle. And you obviously reference prioritization as well. So, how did New York land Emma?
That's the
So,
question. That's what everyone wants to know.
so it, and people talk about New York's depth, but what it really came down to was the familiarity that Emma had with a lot of the people involved with the New York Liberty. On the outside, that obviously means Jonquel Jones and Brianna Stewart, who played with her for ECAT in Russia. That means Sandy Brondello, the head coach, and her husband, the top assistant, Olaf Lang, who coached her when she was very young in Russia. And that also means the Liberties knew, oh, Natasha Cloud as well, who played with her and won a championship with her in 2019. And then someone a little bit more under the radar is the Liberty's new player development director, Andrew Wade, who came to the Liberty from being with the Washington Mystics for years. And so I spoke to Andrew Wade about his relationship with Emma Meesseman, and they met in 2019, his first year, and they both got to know each other and were drawn to each other because they were both, a little bit more on the quiet side, not necessarily these big extroverts. And, they connected talking about basketball and asking each other questions. And each and every time the team practiced, Andrew Wade would spend between half an hour and 45 minutes doing one-on-one skill work with Emma. Like this was something she wanted to do, and he's a tall guy and he's able to sort of guard her and he's into player development, so they got to know each other really well. You flash forward to the bubble season. During the bubble, there was not much to do besides hang out with your teammates, people within the organization. And so Andrew Wade and Emma Meesseman got even closer during that time. And so when it came to Emma making this decision between New York, Minnesota, and Phoenix, she had a phone call with Andrew in mid-July, and she asked him a bunch of questions about would she have a high quality of life in New York? Would she feel comfortable and happy to come to work each and every day? And he really laid out for her and helped convince her that New York would be a place where she could have a high quality of life and, really vibe with the people she was playing with. And so his influence really put this over the top when it came to Emma making her decision.
That's fascinating. I had no idea. And it even just pulls the strings together even tighter when you think of like why she went to Chicago then 2 years after the bubble and then winning the championship. Let's go on to our jump ball segment. Who wins this jump ball? Does signing Emma Meesseman put the Liberty over the top as the favorites to win the championship this year?
That's such a hard question to answer because you have the Minnesota Lynx, whose record is much better than New York's. They are 5.5 games up on the Liberty as we are chatting. But I don't know. I mean, talent is talent. And if anyone knows how to get buy-in and get players to have chemistry really quickly, it's head coach Sandy Brondello. And so I'd say a soft yes to this. I mean, especially with all the injuries the Liberty are dealing with right now, there are going to be some growing pains when Brianna Stewart returns, but Emma being able to get a lot of reps in now with Stewie out, it's going to really help her when it matters most.
Yeah, I think it's a perfect situation. Like, you never want a player that is an MVP caliber player to be injured, but there could not be a better situation for Emma Meesseman to come in because you're going to have that lineup discussion in September and in the playoffs, like who's going to start. And it's like Emma Meesseman has come off the bench in the playoffs before and won the finals MVP as well. So she is used to being in that type of role. My reason is kind of what you said with the talent. There has not been a more talented starting lineup in the league since I have to go all the way back to the 2021 Las Vegas Aces when Liz Cambage was on the team. When they had Cambage, Wilson, uh, Kelsey Plum, Jackie Young, Chelsea Gray. That was a loaded team that didn't win. This year, Natasha Cloud, Sabrina, Fibich, Stewie, Jonquel, and someone has to come off the bench in that group. It's one of those situations that I think with New York making this move, anything short of a championship should be considered disappointment with everything that they've done and all the talent that they have.
I agree. I mean, although the continued talking point here has been we don't have a lot of practice time. That's across the league. That's not just the Liberty. I'm sure that's happening. You're hearing that in Washington. You're hearing it across the country, all these different teams. And so, as I said, Sandy Brondello is really good at putting pieces together quickly. But it's hard to predict. Even if she tries as hard as she does, you can't predict injuries. I mean, it is the hope that Brianna Stewart and Kennedy Burke and Niara Sabli all return, ideally before September, and have maybe a couple of weeks to reintegrate before the playoffs begin. But that's not a lot of time.
No, not at all. But I mean, I think longer playoffs, I think, help this situation. The fact that we're going to have a 7 game WNBA finals this year, I think will help the Liberty in the long run. But let's inbounds the ball. Let's move on. We could hypothesize all day about this stuff. This is not the first time that Emma has joined a team and looked to make an immediate impact into a championship winner. Of course, longtime Washington Mystic. She sat out the 2018 season to kind of help this. We're talking about the foundation of building up the Belgian national team in 2018. Mystics made it all the way to the finals, lost the Seattle Storm. She came back in 19 and she was the famous missing piece that everyone said of that team that helped them win the championship in 19. In 2022, we already talked about that. She went and joined the Sky a year after they won the championship, joined a team that had Kalia Copper, Candace Parker, Courtney Vandersloot, a team that honestly, when Emma was on it, had much more talent than the team that won in 21. One thing about Emma that I think makes her so special is that former Mystics head coach and general manager Mike Thibault told me this. She is one of the smartest basketball players in the world. She just sees the game at such a different level that just the average player does. She reads defenses at an elite level. We've already kind of talked about the acclimation period, and I want to get feedback from you on like what has that been like over the past couple of games. But she's one of those players that she's a superstar that you do not need to build the team or the offense around her. You can just plug her in, and she is a selfless player that's going to set other players up for success.
It's so funny you say that because that's exactly what I've been hearing from the entire New York Liberty coaching staff. They've said over and over again, they've been like, she is one of the smartest players. Sandy Brondello said, she is the smartest player I've ever coached. Andrew Wade is like, she's an excellent plug and play player. And that's exactly what you said. I mean, the chemistry that she is building with Sabrina Ionescu is absolutely wild to watch because that is the Liberty's, I guess, largest piece on their team who she really hasn't had much experience playing with. And
Mhm.
it's been really interesting to watch Sabrina really embrace Emma and get to know her in real time and really take time to make sure that Emma is feeling comfortable. I mean, in talking to Emma Meesseman, she said, what stands out to me about Sabrina is her leadership and how she's always in my ear. She wants to make me comfortable at all times. She wants to help me with the Liberties terminology. She wants to make sure that this acclimation process can be as expedited as possible. And so that's pretty impressive. You know, that takes more work than already what Sabrina has to do for the New York Liberty. So it's the team is really working to make sure that Emma is as comfortable as possible. And so when you add that extra work to the fact that she sees the game and is this ultra processor in ways that most players aren't, I think that's sort of why you see her scoring in double digits in her first two games playing for the Liberty.
We only have a little bit of time left, so maybe about 60 seconds for this last one. We've seen Emma play a few times, as we've talked about. What's the plan? Like, what's the lowdown of like when everything's together? How does she fit into the collective unit that is the New York Liberty in hopes of winning a championship?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. So I think part of what made this also quite um, uh, advantageous or a situation Emma wanted to come into was the fact that Brianna Stewart has been playing as a point forward as of late. So we call it Point Stewie here in New York. And so the fact that Stewie is playing this sort of like small forward point guard-ish position, that allows Emma to play at her natural position, which is the four. And you have Jonquel Jones at the center. And then you have Brianna Stewart switching between being a big wing and a point guard. And you also see Stewie doing a lot of her scoring in the restricted area and driving. So the fact that you have Jonquel and Emma able to space. So where these players get their shots, it's not going to be such an issue. There isn't going to be a ton of overlap. And I think that's something to remember as we start to observe how this reintegration, when players begin to get healthy, starts to look like.
I'm just having flashbacks to Elena Deladon being that kind of point forward, if you will. Kalia Copper. We're all talking about similar players with similar skill sets. That is the whistle. Jackie, thank you so much for joining. We can all follow Jackie's work at thenexthoops.com. For everyone watching at home, thank you for taking this media time out from your day. Now back to the action on the court.